Hello everyone and welcome to the Apphia Life YouTube channel. My name is Stanley, the creator of ApphiaLife.com, a faith-building ministry that is dedicated to helping colorful women understand their worth in God, as well as create lives that are fruitful. Today's video is going to be about a biblical character. Her name is Rahab. In this video, we're going to be referencing to Joshua chapter 2 as well as Numbers 14. So go ahead and get your Bible ready so that way we can do this study together. So Rahab is an important person in this redemptive story that God has been writing since Genesis. And I feel like as women, we should all know about her story and be able to understand her more thoroughly. So that's why we are doing this study, because when I read about her, I was just so amazed by the type of woman she was and the faith that she had. So if you didn't know, Rahab was a prostitute. And it wasn't like she was a prostitute who might have been in and out. No, this girl was a full-fledged, I'm about to get my money. She was sleeping around with a bunch of men, maybe even some women, being like, I need my money. Even though she was a prostitute, she was actually in the genealogy of Christ. Like, how mind-blowing is that this woman who had a past that was so crazy, a past that a lot of women these days would not even want to associate with her because of who she was and what her reputation was. She was the type of woman that if you saw her, a lot of people would be talking about her, saying she slept with this man, slept with that man. I don't know what type of STD that girl has. That's the type of thing people would have been saying because of her reputation and what she was doing. Even though she was a prostitute, she was in the genealogy of Christ. And it wasn't by mistake. Like, God appointed and designed her to be chosen to be in this family. Well, the important thing about Rahab is that she didn't know anything about God except for what she heard. She had no relationship with him. She never saw any of the miraculous things that he did for the Israelites, yet she had an unshakable faith in him. She heard about how God delivered the people of Israel out of Egypt and parted the Red Sea so that they can be taken away from the Egyptians that were chasing them, and how the Israelites went and they defeated and fought Og and Sihon. She had so much faith in a God that she never knew and never experienced, and we're going to compare her faith with that of the 12 Israelite spies that went in to see Jericho almost 40 years prior. In Numbers 14, starting on chapter 25. After exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh and in the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community that what they had seen and showed them the fruit that they had taken from the land. This was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing of milk and honey. Here is the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, and descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan River. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once to take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. But the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't go against them. They are stronger than we. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we have traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. So these were 12 spies who Moses sent out to go ahead and look at Jericho to see what could be done to conquer this city, this land. 10 out of 12 spies believed in what they saw versus believing in what God had told them. 2 spies, Caleb and Joshua, had so much faith in God that they were going to go into that land and conquer it if they had to do it by themselves. But these 10 spies who were like, we can't do this because these guys are bigger than us, they're stronger than us, they're probably faster. Like, I'm not gonna go in there because I am not trying to die. They went to the other Israelites in the camp and started to spread rumors and started to spread lies that they can't do it. And they're speaking death into their situation, that they were saying that Basically, God's power was not great enough for them to conquer this land and conquer what God has told them to go and take. But they allowed what they saw to be stronger and believe in more. They believed in more of what they saw than believing in what the God that they proclaimed, that they followed and they served. Their God did so much for them. He was with them. He did so many miracles for them that they saw with their eyes, yet they could not believe him and trust in him. Yet Rahab, a woman who never met God, was able to believe in God. And these 10 spies caused God's anger to fall on the people of Israel because they started to believe these spies more than they believed God. That God was so angry with them that it led to the point that Moses had to intercede in prayer for them. And in verse 17, Moses is crying out to God saying, "Please, Lord, prove that your power is as great as you have claimed. For you said, the Lord is slow to anger and filled with unfailing love, forgiving every kind of sin and rebellion." And God eventually responds to Moses saying, "I will pardon them as you have requested, but as surely as I live, and as surely as the earth is filled with the Lord's glory, not one of these people will ever enter that land. They have all seen my glorious presence and the miraculous signs I have performed both in Egypt and in the wilderness. But again and again they have tested me by refusing to listen to my voice. They will never see the land I swore to give their ancestors. None of those who have treated me with contempt will ever see it." God was telling the people of Israel, because you can't trust what I do for you, you're not going to what I promised you. I gave you food. I gave you water. I took you out of Egypt. You saw every single plague I sent to Egypt. And I saved you and I saved your people, but you can't trust me. You can't believe me. You can't stay faithful to me. Because of that, you're not going to the promised land. And how many times do we act just like these Israelites? That God does so many things. He shows us all of his miraculous signs, yet we are so blind by what we see in front of us, the obstacle, that we feel that these things are greater than the God that is the creator of the universe, the God that formed us and formed our bodies in the space of nothing, that out of everything he spoke and life came to be. He used his hands and he formed the first person, and he breathed his life into that person, that his spirit was in him, so that way it could propagate and go into every other human being in this world. But we cannot believe what he says because we are so focused on what we see in front of us. We were the Israelites, and Rahab is so important because she is a picture of us. She was living a life that was sinful, that was a life that was not pleasing to God, yet she heard of his goodness and his faithfulness, and she believed him. She went and followed him. That she allowed herself to be a living vessel for God to dwell, for God to use, so that his people can enter their promised land. Rahab defied her own people. She gave them up because the God that she saw, or the God that she heard of, she believed was so much greater and powerful than anything that she has ever known. And I believe that this woman was longing for something far greater than what she was used to. She was probably in moments of despair, and like she's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have to sell my body anymore. And she might have been looking for a way out. And God gave her that way out when he sent the spies to her. And that she saw them, she heard about what God said or what God has done, and she decided to follow and trust him. God allowed for the first group of Israelites to be fearful of the people of Jericho because he wanted to have Rahab in his family. He wanted to have Jesus be able to track his earthly lineage to Rahab, because she was a representation of all the mess that we can go through and that we have gone through, but we can still be redeemed. Before you enter your promised land, you're going to have to go through a period of wilderness. And in this wilderness, there's going to be something that you have to learn, or people that are going to have to be prepared to help you get through something, or that you're able to help them get through something. In this case, the Israelites were in their wilderness because Rahab had to be prepared. If the Israelites had entered the promised land 40 years earlier, we would not be studying Rahab right now, and we would not say that Rahab was a family member of Jesus, because she either wasn't born or she was extremely young. God is not going to allow you into your promised land until you are unequivocally ready to enter it. And you know that you are ready based on your actions. The Israelites 40 years ago were not ready because they doubted and fought God every single step of the way. But Rahab, when she came along, she was ready to enter her promised land, which was her new phase of life, because she trusted in a God that she never knew. God chose Rahab, and he wanted her to be part of his holy and eternal family. Rahab was redeemed from her past because of her unshakable faith in God, and she was brought into the royal family of Jesus. This is the reason for the cross. This is the reason why God set into motion in the Garden of Eden the plan of salvation for all of his people. This is why he blocked off all access to the tree of life, so that way we would not be stuck in the lies of the enemy, that we would not have to be stuck in a life where we would be forever separated from God, where we would have no hope in knowing the one true living God and having a relationship with him. God set this plan into motion so that we could be with him, so that we could live eternally with him and love him and have him love us. When you pull back the layers of Joshua chapter 2, you can see how important Rahab's story is to this story of salvation. If you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment. I would love to know, what are some other ways that you think Rahab's story fits into the big story of Jesus? I will go ahead and talk to you in the next video. Hope that you have a blessed and wonderful time until then. Bye everyone, and I love you.